Earth is being reborn. The dark is coming to light. The book of Revelation is being fulfilled. The second coming is upon us. Jesus is coming through the cloud. He's having a meet and greet anytime. Just fucking initiate it. Just initiate it. I'm sorry with the F words. I'll try not to do it anymore. I'll do an episode. Ooh, that'll be a fun episode. I might do a fundraising episode to see how much I can't curse on an episode. God damn it, Mercury retrograde. So I have like breakout features in like an advanced account for some reason, and I am logged out. I blame retrograde. I blame retrograde. I'm super triggered right now. This is upsetting me. I have some things to catch up on. This is freaking me out, but it worked. I'm in my account. I'm like, I want to make sure my client isn't getting a copy of my podcast in their Dropbox. So that's all I'm worried about here. Also, one of the reasons I'm triggered is one of my rapists is suing me for speaking. Ooh, come at it, bro. These men, I tell you. Anyway, so a little triggered about that because my mama warned me. She done did. That's why she'd never help. She's like, Molly, you seem to find some very powerful people. And I'm like, yeah, go get him, mommy. The prince is calling. Go get him. But that's the difference between my mother and I. I was making phone calls, or at least trying to make long distance phone calls and escape my house in infancy. But I was born handicapped and very limited. My mom used to tell me stories that I would try to make long distance phone calls. I'm like, I wonder who the fuck I was calling as a baby, like a literal baby. She's like, who are you trying to call? I'm like, help. And this is where I talk about last lives and stuff. I think I had died as a spy in a last life for Russia. I get a lot of that. I really enjoyed that life, quite honestly. Helping the good guys, or so you think. Who knows? This game of chess is pretty bonkers when I Da Vinci code it back all these lifetimes. But it's so fun to come onto this space and have this conversation about past lives. Today, I'm going to talk about near-death experiences because I've had a lot of those, to the point where Jesus was like, how do you not understand how you are so clear between the veil? He's like, you've had so many near-death experiences. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. And that's how it's done. I mean, you're literally pushed in between the veil. If you don't die, you came back, right? How many times have you done that? I'm going to share some of those times with you today. And I'm also going to tell you what I remember happening when I was in between realms, coming back and forth, fighting for the right to this body and this existence in this lifetime as a child. So I think that's a really fun conversation to have. We're pretty freaking liberated right now, aren't we, girls? It's pretty cool. I can't be burnt at the stake for this shit anymore. Speak up about a man and he'll defame you. Oh, silence the witch. Burn her. I'm fundraising. And thank God I know about 30 million survivors, whether they're all watching me or subscribers. I am friends with the media and I will alert the girls. And they will donate the funds and we will fight you in the elite court systems. If only the elites with the money can play the games. I shall work my way up the trenches, sir. What they don't understand is I've had a past life where I was a fucking queen. Whether I can prove it or not is irrelevant. It's a past life. This is what was told to me. This is what was told to me by my guides. And it was originally told to my mother when she saw a psychic when I was in middle school, and it explained the dynamics of our relationship. And it really actually did, actually. I remember she said she got a lot out of it because she understood the dynamics between her and I, because we were always having issues. She's the boomer generation. God bless her. But they sweep shit under the rug. I guess they're shamed and humiliated if their child gets abducted out of the neighborhood. And it's a misunderstanding. And there's a guy in the window, and I don't know, I guess she assumed he was a peeping Tom, and he was a pedophile. And I kept trying to tell people, there's a man in my window. Oh, you and your imagination. You need to believe kids. And after I got abducted, I told that story. Was that episode 15 or something like that? Oh my God, that was so nice to tell that story. It boggles my mind. And I thank God someone helped me Had that woman next to me not acknowledged me or was like, listen, girl, TMI, you're scaring me. I would have been trafficked at 6 years old out of Pebble Beach, a gated community, by a freaking neighbor who I already had a backstory with. I was not allowed to be anywhere near. Wow. And I just got swept under the rug. And I feel that's so disappointing. And anytime I tried to bring it up to my mom, she was just grossed out by the subject matter. And pedophiles are not fun to talk about, let me tell you. But the day one raped me, I was ready to stand trial the next day. No one wanted to hear from me and see the ugly face and the rage and the anger. Why? What are you so afraid of? Dude, I was 9, Molly, sit down and eat, literally puking at the dinner table. Puking at the dinner table. Underwear missing in my school uniform because my pedophile tricked me into going home first and putting on my school uniform before he was going to give me his present. But I had no idea what the fuck he was talking about because I grew up Catholic, married Jesus in 2nd grade, drank his blood and ate his body, but knew nothing of sex and what holes are down there and what does what and why. And what grooming is and molesting and peeping and not so stranger danger. I mean, this was my friend's dad is a pedophile. How do you tell on someone like that? I made every excuse in the book for that man. I felt so bad for him. He was a traumatized Vietnam veteran. He had told me that he'd survived a helicopter crash. And I was like, oh my God, you are Superman. And that he took a bullet. That's why he limped. And I was like, oh my God, that's insane. And then he was also like a raging alcoholic and incredibly violent. I would hear from his son. And my mom would find out too, like the police would get called sometimes. Like he was just volcanic, but he wasn't like that around me until the day he raped me. And I learned to not fight back because I fought him tooth and nail. And that was one of my first near-death experiences. And I think I told in episode 1, A and B, because it was hard for me to tell about that guy for the first time. No one's ever listened. I would try to tell people and they're like, ew, you're gross. And I'm like, oh, never gonna talk again. And then I learned to sing and act and perform, and it was an outlet, and it was wonderful because I could act out all of these roles, and it was very, God, it was just so cathartic and wonderful. But then I'd meet gatekeepers, like that producer that abducted and raped me. I trusted to go to dinner with him, met him at a legit event, and I've talked about him a lot, so I won't get into too much detail because he's now suing me. Fuck you. Unscathed. I got away from you unscathed, and I shall again, sir. I fucking warned you. That's all I'm going to say anymore. All right, so let's get on with the show. So mom paid for a psychic reading when I was in middle school. I thought that was really cool, and also satanic witchcraft, because my dad was Catholic, and he was like, stay away from that stuff. And my mom was like reading Abraham Hicks and shit. So, and this was like the 80s, the late 80s. We were in California during the earthquake in Santa Cruz. It was around that time, 1989, where the earthquake happened. It happened. We lived right by the San Andreas Fault. And she paid for a psychic reading. I remember she paid a good amount of money. I thought she paid like $200, like saved up for it, for a psychic reading. And they tape recorded it. Was it Sylvia Brown? I think it might've been Sylvia Brown in Santa Cruz that she'd seen her another time. I don't know if that was the same recording, but she came home and she picked me up from middle school. And I remember her telling me in the car, she said, can we park for a minute? Are you in a hurry? And we just like parked at the school because she and I could speak openly about ghosts, dreams, psychic connections, stuff like that. For some reason, we had my mom noticed my imaginary friend, and she noticed the energy it had also, that it seemed very positive at the same time, that she believed enough to have an open conversation with me about something she very much loved and enjoyed and had her own experiences. And I've always encouraged her to write her own stories. They always fascinated me and confirmed that things were happening for myself, that she'd seen orbs. She'd heard, voices telling her to stop right before a crazy event took place that would have literally killed her, my dad, my older brother. my brother was in utero. And my mom's told me this story so many times that my dad and my mom were driving up through the redwood forest in California. And my dad was, driving kind of fast. It was a crazy, crazy storm. And my mom was pregnant with my older brother. And so all three of them would have been in the front seats of the car. And my mom said that she heard a voice and she thought it was my dad's mother who was dead. She died when my dad was 15. And it said, stop. And my mom put her hand out on my dad and said, stop the car. And he did. He slammed on the brakes and a gigantic redwood fell in front of them and bounced up and down and would have killed all three of them. And because of that, my dad always believed what my mom was saying about believing more than just Catholicism, because Catholicism really wasn't serving my father. He wanted to know why his family was such pieces of shit. I'd like to know too, Uncle Pedophile Godfather. Can I ask some questions now, you motherfucker? We'll get to you in another podcast. You could die. I don't give a fuck. I'm just saying that because he's getting old and a lot of these fuckers are leaving. My pedophile died when I was in high school. Even though I told a cop that abducted me, he couldn't help me and report the motherfucker because he'd also abducted me. There's an investigation going on right now for that in Palm Beach Gardens. A detective abducted me from a party. That's got to be another episode, but there was no near-death experience. Thankfully, that guy stopped. But yeah, just last week, I had to do my full deposition for a detective, recalling literally the entire evening, which thankfully I was completely sober. So I have great recall. And I didn't know what was going on, but I was also taking notes at the same time because it felt familiar. Shit. Anyway, back to near-death experiences. My mom paid for that psychic, and the psychic told her that my mother and I had a past life where we were some sort of royalty. And the dynamics were that I was a queen and my mother was like my handler or my mother in that life or whatever, my guardian, my maid in waiting lady. Whether that's a mother or not, I don't know. I don't look back on that time much with fondness, apparently, and I'll tell you why. So apparently she was that, and I was married to a king who was my dad in this life. And that's what the psychic told my mom. And that I really pissed off that king. I did something to really piss him off. And I've since found out what that is. But at the time, she didn't really say much about what I did to piss him off. But the king beheaded me. And apparently, my mom was really pissed in that lifetime because she felt that she could have handled the king way better than me. Yeah, I agree. And also I disagree. Everything happens, my mom also watched, my mom grew up with Dolores Cannon also, really blowing my mind with the shit that woman was saying and making me angry too, where she was like, Molly, did you know past lives are actually happening all at the same time? And I'm like, what is it? Like, oh my God, there's so much happening. It's like quantum leap. It's like 400 timelines. It's past, present, and future. It's nothing's real. It's the aliens are here. It's things are ghosts. Like, oh my God, the things this woman was telling me all growing up, all the books that she was reading and the psychics she would see and the talk shows that she'd watch while I was in school. With psychics and stuff. And so it was fun. It was liberating. I was able to have a Ouija board at my house. When I was in middle school, a friend had one. And oh my God, I thought it was the coolest thing. That it was the coolest freaking thing that I could just be like, ooh, who's here? Who's talking to me? Because I could always feel them and I had conversations with them anyway. So anything that amplified that was exciting to me. But then we tried to get rid of the Ouija board and it kept following us. Like the movers, my mom had to tell the movers repeatedly, don't pack this. It's not ours. We're giving it away. And every time she went to go grab it, to go put it in the car, it was gone. It was someone had packed it again and again. And I wanted it. I wish it was telephone to heaven for me. I got to talk to ghosts and be like, hey, what's up with Earth? No one will talk to me about the weird things. The weird things. Oh, the weird things. So the weird things, So I think that's all I needed to say about the psychic, but just that there was a family dynamic there that was very similar to this one. And I don't judge it. I just assess it for what it is. And I get it for what it is. We're breaking generational curses, right? Well, what's a generational curse? The mother-daughter dynamic relationship. Our mothers were brought up through slavery. I mean, women couldn't have their own bank accounts alone before the 80s, the 1980s, here in America. So our parents went through that, and God bless them. My mom said she was a bra burning feminist. Now she's too tired and watching Netflix and whatever. It is what it is. I've already screamed at her plenty. And if you look at my Facebook, you know I scream. I'm a screamer. Oh, I'm a screamer. I love to scream. I love to tattletale. I love to blabbermouth. I love to let out secrets. So don't tell me any unless you know you want to come forward. And, you know, if you don't want me to, I get it. Just explain yourself, because there's power in numbers, and we're the meek. We're the hidden children. We're the brides of Christ. If you were forced into Catholicism and married Jesus, he's coming for us, people, you know? So, and, I'm kind of rambling here because I just got so much information to talk about today. And it's just such a blessing to talk about this stuff so freely and openly. And it's what I think about all day long. It's constantly what I'm in meditation, active meditation, awake meditation, where I'm just in a disassociated state talking to Jesus. That's how I survived the rapes that I went through. No matter how long they are or short they were, you tune in for help. Whether you realize it or not, it activates that. And that's what I want to talk about, these near-death experiences. Rape is the murder of the soul. Hurting a child is literally the most evil thing you can do on this planet. And we're going to have this conversation. And we do almost every episode. And thank you. Thank you for being here. I know there's a lot of people who just watch and don't thumbs up. And I know people thumbs down like, fuck you, Molly. We hate you. Okay, cool. Come on my podcast and tell me more. Tell me, why do you hate me? Fascinating. I don't care. And I do care. And also, whatever. I got plenty to talk about. I got plenty of episodes to make. So one of the first near-death experiences I had was when I was pretty little. I mean, first of all, birth is a near-death experience because you could die. You're coming through a crazy-ass birth canal, and whether your human knows how to open her fucking legs or not. I curse a lot. Forgive me. Forgive me, Father, if I have sinned. 10 Commandments doesn't say anything about curse words, right? Jesus and I go back and forth on this. He's like, be you, but also. And I'm like, I don't know what that means, but I do. I'll try to tone it down. I'm just angry, and I was never allowed to be. And it's very liberating. I like saying no, and I like being angry. It's helping me flush out the demons that were forced upon me. My God, have I told the toilet story? All right, focus, Molly. I still got to tell that one too. When Jesus healed my lower chakras. And I've touched on it in a couple different episodes, but okay, focus. Dancing around the stories because I'm so excited for them and the dancing in my head, trying to be in order. Okay, so birth is the first near-death experience. The second near-death experience for me was when we found out I had congenital hip dysplasia, like my mother. My mother had it in both hips. And oh my God, the poor woman has had like 70 surgeries, 40 surgeries, so many. We used to joke when we were talking. We're not talking anymore. Molly's too angry and my mom doesn't like my anger. Whatever. She never has. She's missed everything because she doesn't like my anger. So, and I really needed people to assist me, like the woman at the aquarium, take me seriously and help and report the evil beings that are preying on me. Protect me, protect me, protect me. So, you know, and that's the dynamic that I don't mind healing, is what I was getting at about, you know, breaking generational curses. Our parents, our mothers, grew up enslaved. They couldn't even have their own banking accounts. They're not allowed to be homosexual. Even though that would control population levels. For some reason, you have to have the Adam and Eve experience only. Where's the free will then? It makes no sense. It never has. But our mothers had to endure that and go through that. And they just liberated us recently, and that's crazy, crazy. It's new, but it's also permanent and it's sticking, and we're still cleaning up, and we're coming through our own birth canal, or maybe we've already been birthed and we're just cleaning up the blood in the placenta. Who knows? I paint a picture. You know what I mean. Earth is being reborn. The dark is coming to light. The book of Revelation is being fulfilled. The second coming is upon us. Jesus is coming through the cloud. He's having a meet and greet anytime. Just fucking initiate it. Just initiate it. I'm sorry. Sorry with the F words. I'll try to not to do it anymore. I'll do an episode. Ooh, that'll be a fun episode. I might do a fundraising episode to see how much I can't curse on an episode. All right. So in that lifetime, for the woman to be able to groom the child, to be able to score a king, it's quite an accomplishment. And for me to get beheaded, it's quite the disappointment in the person who siphons off of you. And I mean that in the nicest way possible, but that's what it was. I mean, I don't know if I have any musical theater fans here yet, but that's my favorite shit. But Hamilton, was talking all about that too, with the Schuyler sisters, and Angelica talking about that. My only job was to marry rich. I mean, that's basically mine too. When I was growing up, that was the program that was being fed into me. And it was also terrifying because I knew what it came with. I'd have to be sexually subservient to my husband, because that's what Christianity and Catholicism was explaining to me. So my mother was explaining to me. And as someone who was terrified of the men around her, and my mom not saying the greatest things about my dad, and sometimes my dad not being the best person, but he also wasn't a pedophile monster. I didn't know who to trust. I didn't know what kind of men to trust. I thought no one was a good guy, but I also wanted to get married and be with just one person and have my husband and have that twin flame experience that God kept showing me. And Jesus kept showing me my husband. That's another episode too. Thanks, God. See what I mean? Lots of downloads today. I need to talk about the twin flame experience and meeting my twin flame husband and the visions God showed me all growing up, so that I had a focal point and a hope. But I would have the thing that I've always desired, which is one true love, which Disney fed me all the stories and I learned all the songs. I already was a princess and I did. But since learning about that past life, and my dad knew about the past life thing too. My mom finally told him, I think he listened to the tape, or he just listened to her in bed when she was explaining the dynamics of the psychic reading that he paid for. And I remember sometimes we'd get into fights and my mom would say stuff like, you can't blame this on Norway, because there was a past life where my mother abandoned me as an infant in Norway. And I was really mad at her because I wanted to hang out with her in that life. But my dad, who's my little brother in this life, was married to my mother. Stick with me, write it down and make a chart if you need to follow along. He died in a Viking war, Norway, we were all Vikings. And my mother was so distraught that her love of her life, which they're really, really close in this lifetime too. Honestly, their dynamics are really cute. And also I hate them. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, they missed a lot and I really needed help. I needed protection and I needed people to get people arrested so they'd stop. Whatever, it is what it is. And I'm proud of myself, and they did the best they could. And also I wish they could have done more. If we'd had Facebook back then, I would have been SOS, smoke signals. My pedophile was showing me and telling me about a shed in his backyard. And that scares me to this day, especially when I hear more about the JC Duggar girl that lived in a guy's backyard in a shed that was soundproof and was having babies by 13. That's what my pedophile wanted. He was explaining that to me, and I wasn't understanding what he was saying, nor understanding that I should be reporting him to anyone because he's a friend's dad. And he lives like 2 houses down, and his kids play with my brothers. And I mean, he would tell me the stuff. We'd be on his driveway. All these kids would be playing there, and he'd see me limping and he'd be like, Molly, come here. He'd see me just enjoying myself. And he'd be like, Molly, are you in pain? And I'd say, yeah. And he'd say, why don't you come sit on my lap? And I'd go sit on his lap. And he'd start touching me and telling me the most insane shit, or showing me his penis. Well, literally everyone's right there. And I'm just in my head, it is exploding at the same time with what do I do? Am I in danger? I didn't know. So I just would disassociate and kind of pick my fingers and cause myself to literally bleed. I would rip my cuticles just to shreds and get infections with how stressful it was to sit on his lap, have him touch me, expose himself, and say the things that he was saying when I was 6. And then seeing him in my window and them not believing me. And we lived in the forest in a gated community. So we had like 100 trees to hide behind. Like, someone go get a flashlight. Our Doberman did nothing. And the man was a psychopath, military trained. So he got away with a ton. Anyway, so that was another near-death experience. That day with him, it's when I learned to be submissive. Like I said, I tried to fight back, and he was repeatedly choking me out of consciousness to submit. And since I didn't want to hurt my body, I mean, it was happening, and he was telling me it was happening. And other rapists, Dargan said the same thing. Dargan who? I didn't say your last name. Shit. Maybe I'll bleep that. Good girl. Thank God for editing. God's like, edit. He wants me to take all my media down that exposes him. No. And it won't happen. I mean, even if it goes down on third parties, I wrote a blog, and if you write his name, it's like the second thing that comes up. He was a ghost for many years, because I would look up on the internet if anyone has ever reported him or anything showed up. And were there other people? Was that rape? Was what he did okay? Did I do something? I don't know. I just blamed myself, and I was too scared. And like I said, I had no support. No one wanted to hear it. And I didn't know how to tell. And then I tried to tell in psych hospitals after suicide attempts. And then no one would listen. They'd be like, you sound depressed. Let's get you some medication, Marilyn Monroe. How dare you speak about this? Wake up, people. So I'm trying to think of all the past lives. There was Norway. You can't blame this on Norway. It was funny. And it was also like, I'm not blaming it on Norway. I wish I could tell you about the pedophile, but you won't let me speak. My mom used to read my journal and then get mad at me. I'm not joking. And I didn't even drink or really do anything. And even if I did, it was so innocent. I don't know, whatever. She wasn't going to tell me about sex, so everyone else did. And so other near-death experiences, when we'll step away from my mother for a bit. Sorry, Mom. My mom had congenital hip dysplasia in both of her hips. When I first was born, my mother had me tested to see if I had congenital hip dysplasia, and it came back negative, thinking I didn't. And it turns out I did. Within 18 months, I mean, my legs were like 2 inches off. One was 2 inches longer than the other. It had slipped out of the socket so much. I was like walking in circles and falling down, and also in a ton of pain. And like my ligaments were catching and shit was off. And I have EDS, which is like really long, stretchy ligaments that don't retract back like a rubber band. They're like old rubber bands. So I'm very, very fragile, and my ligaments would get all caught and behind my leg. And sometimes I couldn't even open or close my leg again because something would get hinge. It was horrible. Oh, it was the worst feeling ever. And dislocations. Oh God, ugh, yuck. So I'm experiencing that again. And I had experimental surgeries. It was experimental. It still is. I still have experimental surgeries. And so does my mom. We beta test. She's going to be a cyborg at some point because of all of the physical disabilities that we've endured, and sign up for experimental surgeries because how do you heal bone? I want to believe Jesus heals bones, but who knows? I mean, God also makes doctors and scientists. So we'll figure it out. For now, I sit because my mom used to call me and be like, why are we crippled? I don't understand. Well, God says we need to write books and be crippled. And I get that, but it sucks. We're freaking pain. It sucks. We're in pain. And I know other people having the same exact thing, this sciatica, this back, this leg numbing, shooting down to the ankle. And it sucks. A lot of people are having congenital hip dysplasia issues. And so I had 2 experimental surgeries at 18 months, again, when I was 3. The doctor that experimented on me was hung over, and he blasted me with too much radiation and then put me in a cast too soon. And then my legs swelled in the cast. And I think my mom went through the exact same thing. But they cut my cast open and I was on antibiotics. I vaguely remember it because I thought I was dying at the time. I was in so much pain and nauseous and throwing up. And I think I stopped talking after that point for a bit. My mom said I went mute after like the first 18 months surgery. Not a fan, did not like it. And I didn't talk for quite a while. I hated the whole experience and I survived it. But we were in the hospital for like 6 weeks recovering. I was in traction at 18 months, had that experimental surgery, doing manipulations and seeing what would work. And like I said, the doctor performed on me, I guess, hungover. And I've had that happen more than once. I had a girl take my blood and she like looked like she'd just come from the club and she pulled the catheter out of my arm and like blood squirted across the room. And I was like, go get your boss. Like, did you just come from a party? I have pneumonia. Oh my goodness. And I remember her leaving the room and I had to point out to my husband and son, I'm like, she looks like she's been drinking all night, just rolled in and she just pulled a needle out of my arm and it's shooting blood across the room. Like, anyway, I feel like there's a lot of incompetent people and also people are doing the best they can, but holy shit, you're scaring the fuck out of me. But near-death experience, anyway, back to that doctor, he ended up killing himself. He had so many malpractice suits against him that where's the accountability? He ended up really messing me up. And I required another surgery, a bigger surgery when I was 3 years old. And they did actual like manipulation and other stuff. I don't know. I don't know all the details, but I was in a body cast again. This time, I think a full body cast was the bigger body cast for that one. Maybe that was the one with the infection. I don't know. More stuff. I don't know all the details anymore. My mom really doesn't talk about it. And I don't remember it. I was an infant. But all of those were near-death experiences. I mean, when I was 18 months and 3, I couldn't communicate. I couldn't tell people, I'm in so much pain. I was just crying all the time. And I'm sure it was annoying. We were in a children's hospital. Everyone was crying all the time. Everyone was crying all the time. We were just in a cot and my mom was in a cot with other people in the room with curtains in between us. And it was horrible. And it was also wonderful and sweet. And I remember I had a Grover that kept me company and the staff put like Snoopy in my room and they would come and read books to me and they were really sweet to me. And some of them scared me and some of them didn't. And it was a weird experience. And I also remember being in so much physical pain and no one could understand me, that I would disassociate and just go into other realms until the pain would subside and I could fall asleep. And I would just zone out. And a lot of times I did have really good drugs at that age because I was in excruciating pain when they could figure out that was the problem. I could take some medicine again. So those are all near-death experiences where I don't remember so much where I went in those times, other than I just felt like I was being hugged or cared for. I felt like I was just in this like amniotic fluid of God space, like back and forth in the waiting room. But coming back here, like you're being born again, that's the only way I can really explain it. It feels like it was glitter, slime, gold glitter slime that wasn't as dense as like slime, but in a suspension. That's where I felt like I was at during those times, and just coddled and nurtured, and I could just feel a vibration, I guess, like the womb feel of just healing and love. It wasn't scary, that part. And then I'd wake up in the hospital to scare the shit out of me because it was very loud and it was very hard to get any sleep in there. And I remember my mom would tell me that my older brother forgot he had a sister. He was like, do I have a sister? Where is she? And I didn't see my dad very much too, because it was not really close by and he had to work. And I think we lived in Santa Barbara at the time. But anyway, so that was another near-death experience. And then trying to think what other near-death experiences I had. When I crashed my car when I was 17, right before my 17th birthday. I didn't even make it to my 17th birthday, I don't think. Oh, I loved that car. Oh my God, I loved having my first car and my first horse. Oh, I got a free horse when I was 12 from God. It was the best thing ever. We had a stable in our neighborhood and state park right outside of it. God really loved me and still does. And he's encouraging me to speak. And that's why I want to explain things to other people who want to hear this. And thankfully, I have a ton of people who want to hear it. And you guys reach out to me and you tell me thank you. And it keeps me going. Otherwise, it's talk therapy. Molly with Molly. Hey, Molly, how you doing? I don't know. Let's talk. I mean, that's what I had to do to psych myself up before singing. I would get so nervous that I would have to look in the mirror and just be like, we got this. You know, we've already committed to something. We have to see it through. Because I remember signing up for things and then the day would come and I would get such butterflies that I would tell my mom, I don't want to do it anymore. And she would tell me, Molly, honey, you made a commitment and you're going to disappoint people. People want to see you. You're good enough. And, you know, she'd give me a pep talk. Like, you know, my mom's not evil. She's just a boomer. But we're breaking generational boomer curses. And God bless the boomers. God bless the boomers. So I'm trying to think what other near-death experiences earlier on there were for me. I mean, the next one that I can think of is when I started having suicide attempts, when I was aggressively trying to kill myself. And the first time that had happened was in 2014. In 2014, I had had a full visual flashback of being back in the room with the pedophile that I had tried to convince myself never really happened, but I had so many memories. And I knew he got me that one day. I always knew he got me in his room that one day. And that I would never forget it, especially how I was treated afterwards when I tried to go home and tell everybody. I slept at the dinner table overnight and was punished for coming home with a bad attitude and chasing my little brother in the house because he had the thing Brad said he was giving me. They will break up your entire family. This is why we have to expose pedophiles and sex abusers. Nobody wants to be treated like this. You're forced into submission. And I get that, you know, with the recruiters and stuff. I've met them that are born into it. And I have as much sympathy for my recruiter as I do for the celebrity survivors that are controlling the narrative right now that I was trying to help. Now I just have to expose you because I made a promise to God that I'm exposing it. And I warned you too. I said, don't make me the enemy. Don't make me the enemy. I will listen to you and we will figure this out. I understand that you were forced to do things, but you also made a ton of money. And a lot of people didn't, and you sold people out. Literally sold people into the system that never knew what the hell was going on. And I get that that's the whole trick. And we forgive you, but we're fucking pissed. And we're speaking. And I know you guys are suppressing us and we're not going to take it anymore. So here we are. So near-death experiences. So, okay. So when I tried to kill myself after that full visual flashback of being in that guy's room, I'm trying to remember the flashback itself. It was so fucking scary. I remember just being frozen, just pausing and taking it in and being terrified that my whole world was morphing into that room. And my husband was sitting next to me and he was on the floor and he started turning into that man. And I heard God say, send him out. He's not Brad. And I told my husband, I said, I need you to leave. I said, I need you to leave the room. I said, I'm having a flashback and I need you to leave the room because you can't be a part of it. And he said, I don't know what that means. And I said, I need you to leave right now. And he left and he went out the room and he shut the door and he slid down beside the door and didn't know how to help me at that point. And at that point, I was in between both realms. I could see in front of me, I was in that room. I could see the light in the window and the television on, streaming the pornography that he was making me watch while he did the things he did to me, whether I liked it or not, for as long as he could. And his wife even came home and popped in on us when I was in and out of consciousness, and she did nothing. And then I came to on the sofa and he convinced me that I had fallen asleep in their house. I'd never been in it. I was always very afraid of him. I came in that one day just because I trusted him. It was the afternoon, it was daytime. And he said he had a present for me. And I was a 9-year-old kid who wanted a present. And I know what the present was the rabbit fur that he would touch himself with. And I wanted to bury it because I know he killed and skinned that rabbit. And he told me he did. And I wanted it so that I could bury it and stop worrying about it. Because like I said, I can see ghosts, and that rabbit doesn't like that. Neither do I. It wished it never met Brad. But I came to meet Brad. It's part of my mission, part of why I agreed to come here, part of why I remember past lives, part of why I remember futures and what's going to be happening, and why I've agreed to every part and checkpoint of this life, and why I hear and see Jesus and I pay close attention. I'm meant to expose it, and I'm happy to. Most people can't handle it, and that's okay. I'll speak. Write me privately. I mean, I already get plenty that do, but please continue to. I'll never ignore you. At least I won't try to. If I get an influx, I mean, forgive me. I may not be able to get to everyone right away, but know that I believe you. No one makes this shit up. One of the things I wanted to point out about false reportings, because I know this is everyone's biggest concern, the real statistic for a false reporter is 0.002%. The actual statistics that are in the public knowledge or available to the public include those who were brave enough to report and speak up, but backed down when their rapist sued them for defamation and they were too scared or poor to keep going. That gets lumped into the category of false reporting because the person is acquitted, not exonerated. Acquitted means a trial has been canceled, charges, everything canceled for whatever reason, not because it didn't happen. Most people can't even afford to take their rapist to court. It's the crime that, why would you stop if you're into it? And what's sad is they are. Everyone that has abducted me or raped me, I mean, it was scary how much it seemed that they were enjoying their evil ways. And I also had the utmost compassion because I don't know what kind of person you would have to be in order to have that kind of life. And I understand you're born into it, you're forced into it. But God's cleaning it up. We're exposing it. We're seeing the beast system, the book of Revelation. I mean, it's just so amazing. And it's just so incredible to have this conversation. So I want to close this podcast up, but I want to tell you, when I had that flashback, I had a suicide attempt that was very serious. I couldn't handle the reality. And I knew he was dead, so there was nothing I could do. And he died a war hero, which really made me upset that he didn't die a pedophile, a known pedophile, for what he truly was. And that it destroyed me. Within 3 days, I think I took, within a couple of days, within 2 weeks, I took all of the antidepressants the doctors had prescribed me and all of the sleeping pills all at the same time. And I woke up, I think about a day later. And I can't remember if I said it or not, but there's no medication for PTSD. I'm not bipolar. I'm not manic. The therapist I have now, the trauma therapist, he was just telling me every Thursday I see him, Molly, you still have active PTSD and you do not have any mental illness that did not stem from PTSD. And that's not correctable by fixing the PTSD, which is justice and speaking and talking and exposing and clearing. This is not my shame. This is not my secret. Fuck you. I didn't ask for this. I'm a singer. I'm a child of God. I'm not a victim. I'm not a survivor. I'm not a rag doll. Ooh. I'm a human being. I'm a mother. I'm a daughter. I'm a sister. I'm a wife. I'm a human being. And I'm here to tell my story. And I appreciate you all being here. But the one thing I wanted to tell, and I'm closing with it, is when I tried to kill myself, I went somewhere. And I remember where I went because I remember waking up right from there and being furious to still be alive. I couldn't take the pain of this reality anymore. The pain of my physical body, the pain of my soul, the pain of my chest, the pain of my womb and my sexual organs, the pain of my skin, the pain of my brain, the pain of my memories, the pain of my recall, the pain of my limitations, the pain of my gifts and achievability and potential. The place that I went to, it didn't make sense for the longest time. It also did make sense, and it made me very angry. And it also has something in the past, how long has it been now? 6-7 years since I tried to kill myself that time, that near-death experience where I was out for hours, days, a day. It was a big near-death experience. And I wasn't dead. I don't know where I was completely asleep with a month's worth of pills for 2 prescriptions in my body. And where I went, I'm going to try to paint a picture. Where I went, it looked like these big green rocks. And it was like a dome, like a, for the gladiators, the stadiums from way back when were the gladiators. What are those called? It looked like that, but it was these big green rocks, big green stones. It didn't look all dried out. It looked healthy, and like the stones looked almost moist and living with green and like gray blue. So it's not something I'd ever seen before, the levels of green and blue that were in these stones of a Colosseum. It was kind of like a Colosseum. And I was in the Colosseum at the very bottom of this Colosseum. And above me were all of these angels. And I remember feeling like I was an angel. I was just down, like almost in the fetal position. Surrendering, giving up, begging for mercy. And the angels were all staring at me, but they were silent. They weren't allowed to interfere. They weren't allowed to speak. And I thought they were mad at me or angry at me or disappointed in me, that I wasn't lifing well enough or dealing with the damages quietly enough and properly, pristinely enough. And I felt like a failure. And that's when Archangel Michael stepped forward and told me God needed me to live, that God had a purpose for all of this, and that I had to stay, and that they needed me to stay, that I've agreed to stay, and that I agreed to this a long time ago, and that I have helped and they will help me. I was so angry with that answer because I didn't want to come back. But they all applauded me, and I left and woke up in the hospital. And as soon as I woke up, I took my fingernail and tried to slit my wrist. I still have a scar there. The nurse immediately restrained me and scolded me. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Let's Be Frank with your host, Molly Sky Brown. No, I'm not going to end it like that. That's fucked up. I don't blame her. And also I was really disappointed with her lack of empathy. But she doesn't know me. She didn't know me. But near-death experiences are very powerful, and there's a lot to unwrap there. And I'm really grateful that I'm part of this. I truly am. I feel like I'm a warrior, and I get the most amazing messages from God. I mean, just signs, just things that I see every day that He is truly with me, and I am not fantasizing this, and that He's helping. He wants Earth better for us, because that's what I want. I want to be not afraid to live here, because I had been, not anymore, but I had been begging God to please let me die and don't even let me go to heaven. I don't even want to go there. Delete me is what I used to beg. And I mean, they had to interfere because I'm allowed to ask for that. And God granted it, and everyone rejected. All my guides, no. And God explained she can do whatever she wants. She can have whatever she wants, because He loved me. But He was also showing me the consequences from all the actions. And while I didn't think anyone on earth would miss me, there's apparently legions of angels behind me in my mission to Joan of Arc the Me Too movement and expose the soul stealers. I just wanted to sing. I wanted to sing musicals. I wanted to sing, well, and I knew my limitations. I couldn't sing musicals. I'm fucking handicapped. So I wanted to be a Disney voice. I wanted to do character voices, and I would trust people. I would trust producers, because I wanted to tell them at dinner. And instead I'd get my face shoved in their crotch, and I would be attacked sexually or raped and abducted. Before I could even tell them I sing Disney songs. I mean, they got to hear me sing. So I don't know. I used to think my voice was, first of all, I hated my voice. I thought it sounded so weird. And then I realized it was really good for cartoon or character voice, which now I love. I think that's really fun, but I hated my natural voice. I hated how it sounded, but men loved it. It was really weird. And women and people love it. I've been told since that it's enchanted, which it feels like it. I have a very clear throat chakra. That's why I'm able to do this humanitarian Aquarius work. I am creating shit that's never been done before, and I need to just cut myself some slack. That it's okay that I don't know what it looks like. And then of course I know what it looks like. God's been showing it to me since I was a child, what I'm doing here. So, all right, we're at the end of the hour. I think this was a great podcast. Hopefully you stuck with me through the whole thing. And I love you so much. And thank you for being here with me and bleeding me and hearing me and sitting and witnessing me through these stories that are very therapeutic and cathartic. And I hope you've never experienced anything like me. And I also know that that's mathematically impossible, considering the statistics that 1 in 3 women will be sexually assaulted by their adult years, and 1 in 5 children will be sexually abused. So I know you're out there. Reach out to me. I love interviewing you guys. I love just talking to you privately. I love supporting you and however you're dealing with this. And if you want me to do all the work for you, I'm happy to. Let's do this together. We need laws changed, and we'll figure it out. But we're disrupting the beast by educating. What I'm doing is educating what it looks like. How does it happen? The monsters are, God, they're the best way I can explain a sexual predator or a pedophile is they're very insecure. They don't believe that they can have love organically because they believe they are broken. So they've learned to take. And I get that. I used to shoplift in high school, and in middle school, I used to meet a lot of kids who they did it, and I was easily manipulated. And I would every now and again, and I would always get caught. And I just stopped. But there was an adrenaline rush, and there's a whole control factor, and there's this whole God owes me. Some man took my virginity as a child, and I wanted to give that to my husband. And now the world owes me, and I'm just going to take this and put it in my pocket. And I would steal stuff and like literally never even use it. I never even felt worthy of using it. And that's a weird psychological thing, but it makes sense. But anyway, okay, I'm ending this now. Thank you for being here with me. I love you guys so much. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Let's Be Frank with your host, Molly Sky Brown. Let me know if you want to be on the show. Go to my website, and on the website page, in the show notes, there's a link in my bio to the podcast show page. And you can come be on my show. I love talking about spiritual stuff. I love talking about Jesus. I love talking about, even if you don't like Jesus, I've interviewed plenty of people who were like, I only like Jesus because you've explained him to me. And I'm like, yay, that's my job. And that's the musical I'm making too. And my husband and I are making a play right now for Fringe Festival of Jesus, Lucifer, and Archangel Michael do a table read for the second coming. So it is written with the... they're not on Earth, they're in between realms, but there's a director, a musical director, and a producer. Oh my God, I'm trying to remember the three characters, and they're all trying to get on the same page. It's Lucifer, Jesus, and Michael. And that's all I'm going to say for right now. It's really, really amazing. And we're having a lot of fun. And the husband's doing an amazing job writing it up. He's getting a lot of information since I've been able to explain these characters and how they present themselves to me. That's the twin flame amazingness. You can line up your chakras if you do the work together, and you guys are basically when two become one. So my guides, he now hears, and that's really cool. And they show him scenes and give him stuff too. And it's such a relief to have that ability, because we can get so much more work done when we're both hearing the same divine guidance, instructed by God and purified through Jesus. If you are interested in having your own come to Jesus, I have in my store for $33, you can buy a meditation that activates the Christ consciousness. It's your own personal come to Jesus. Jesus says no church required. It's the Yeshua 2.0 activation that John the Baptist gave me. And Jesus explained to me, and then also explained to me the firewall activation after it, to make Jesus like your bouncer. You choose Jesus. So the baptism is a washing away of just, the old. It doesn't have to be drama, sin, and be in front of people at a church. It's just in a bathtub. It's just a reconnection with source. And if you don't have $33, I have on my YouTube channel, I'm trying to remember, I have a video on there where it explains the activation and the meditation for you to do it yourself. If you just understand what I'm saying, which I try to make it very, very clear. So I hope that helps. And this is the third time I'm signing off now, because I don't like leaving. I love you guys. Thank you for joining me. Have a great day.
If you'd like to work closely with me, you can opt in the show notes to an email sequence that will go right out to you with my complimentary 5-day manifesting mastery course. There I teach you the basics of all things manifesting and how we're always manifesting, and why it would behoove us to know what we're doing.